Hello, this course will introduce you to biological control, a tool for pest management. Here in Part 1, we will focus on biological control solutions that are not regulated as pesticides. My name is Amara Dunn-Silver, and I am the biocontrol specialist with the Cornell Integrated Pest Management Program. In the picture on the right of this slide, you can see a red ladybug eating black aphids on a squash leaf. Ladybugs eating aphids may be one of the most familiar examples of biological control, but today you'll learn that biological control is much more. I consider myself to be someone who is experting in biological control. I spend a lot of time learning about and engaging with the topic, but I don't know everything there is to know. I like to share this at the beginning of my presentations. I will be asking you to participate in this presentation because I think it will make the course more interesting for you and help you learn more. At several points, I will pause and ask you to think about and answer a question. You do not need to submit a response to these questions. Today we will cover three main topics. First, we will answer the question, what is biological control? This section will define terms associated with biological control and explain how it is connected to the larger integrated pest management picture. Next, we will talk about three types of biological control. Finally, we will talk about how biological controls that are not pesticides work. The term biological control is often shortened to biocontrol, and I'll be using that shorter word throughout the rest of this course. Biocontrol is using living organisms, or the things they produce, to control pests. As I mentioned, ladybugs eating aphids is a common example of biocontrol. The aphid is the pest, and the ladybug is the biocontrol agent, or the natural enemy that eats the aphids. But biocontrol is a lot more. We could think about this green circle in the middle of the slide representing every tool that can be used to control pests. Sometimes living things and their products control pests. These include insects and other arthropods like spiders and mites, which look like insects but aren't, nematodes, which are tiny worms, and microorganisms, or microbes, which include bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Biocontrol happens where the green pest control circle overlaps each of these other three circles: insects, nematodes, and microbes. These overlap zones are where natural enemies or biocontrol agents are helping us with pest control. According to the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, often called FIFRA, a pesticide is any substance or mixture of substances intended for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any pest. While insects and other arthropods, nematodes, and microbes can all be biocontrol agents, under FIFRA, insect and nematode natural enemies are exempted and are not regulated as pesticides. They are not considered substances or mixtures of substances. Microbes used to control pests are considered pesticides under FIFRA. This course focuses on biocontrol solutions that are not regulated as pesticides. Biocontrol agents regulated as pesticides, biopesticides, are covered in another course. You might ask, where do plant extracts fall on this diagram? Plant extracts that control pests are also regulated as pesticides and will be addressed in another course. You also might be wondering, how does biocontrol fit into integrated pest management, or IPM? The goal of IPM is to manage pests while protecting human health, the environment, and the financial bottom line. We often talk about four categories of pest management tools that are part of IPM: cultural, physical, biological, and chemical. Practicing good IPM often involves starting with cultural or physical pest management strategies to prevent pest problems in the first place. Biological and chemical controls may be used if cultural and physical control strategies are not sufficient alone. Some biocontrols pose less risk than some chemical controls, but it is inaccurate to say that all biocontrols pose less risk than all chemical controls. Now we're ready to talk about the three types of biocontrol. The three types of biocontrol are classical, augmentative, and conservation. The distinction amongst these types of biocontrol lies in the answer to two questions. Number one, are pests and their natural enemies exotic or native to a geographic region? And number two, how often are natural enemies released or applied? This could be never, once, or repeatedly. Classical biocontrol usually involves both a pest and natural enemy that are not native to a geographic area. It is often used when an invasive pest has been introduced to an area where the pest has no natural enemies and therefore reproduces out of control. The ecosystem is out of balance. In a lengthy and carefully regulated process, researchers may identify a natural enemy that co-evolved with the pest, confirm that this natural enemy is specific to this pest and will not harm other organisms in the ecosystem, and release that natural enemy, hopefully just once in each location. The natural enemy will survive in its new location and reproduce, feeding on the pest. Over time, the pest population is brought back into balance by the natural enemy. The pest will not be eradicated, but its population is kept from growing out of control. Augmentative biocontrol requires multiple applications or releases of the natural enemy. The natural enemies may be native or exotic, but it won't persist where you release them. Typically, you would need to purchase them from a producer or a distributor. Augmentative biocontrol is used extensively in greenhouses to manage pests. Conservation biocontrol happens when we protect or promote the welfare of natural enemies that are already present. You don't need to buy or release them. You just need to take care of them. This is done by providing what all living things need: food, shelter, and protection from harm, including protection from incompatible pesticides. Plants that produce lots of pollen and nectar can be an extra food source for insect natural enemies, in addition to pests. Examples of shelter include both living and dead plant material, depending on the natural enemy you are trying to conserve. Some pesticides kill not just pests, but also biocontrol agents. By reducing your use of pesticides or selecting pesticides that are least harmful to biocontrol agents, you are practicing conservation biocontrol. Over the next few slides, I will ask you to apply what you just learned about the three types of biocontrol. I will show you an example of biocontrol, then pause and give you time to decide whether it is an example of classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol before continuing to the next slide and giving you the answer. Our first example is purple loosestrife, an invasive weed with pink-purple flowers. Following extensive research, 2 beetle species and 2 weevil species from the purple loosestrife's native range were selected and released in the United States. Purple loosestrife can still be seen in wet areas, but populations are relatively small. Is this classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol? The beetles and weevils introduced to control purple loosestrife are examples of classical biocontrol. After the release of the beetles and weevils, the purple loosestrife has not been eradicated, but its population is reduced. Our next example comes from California. Lettuce growers plant the flower sweet alyssum in between rows of lettuce. The small white flowers are very attractive to yellow and black striped hoverflies, also called syrphids. The larvae of these hoverflies eat aphids on the lettuce. Is this classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol? Planting sweet alyssum near lettuce plants to control aphids is an example of conservation biocontrol because you are attracting and feeding natural enemies from the surrounding area, rather than releasing them. Our next example is the control of white grubs in a lawn. You can purchase nematodes that kill white grubs and apply them to your lawn in the late summer or early fall each year to kill young white grubs in the lawn. Is this classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol? Using nematodes to control white grubs in your lawn with yearly applications is augmentative biocontrol. You purchase them and apply them repeatedly to control the pest. Note that there are some strains of entomopathogenic nematodes that will persist in soil and would only need to be applied once. Some people plant flowers amidst the vegetables in their gardens. For example, on the left you can see sweet alyssum and marigolds planted near Swiss chard, basil, carrots, and peppers. On the right you can see a checker spot lady beetle visiting flowers of a cilantro plant that has been allowed to bloom. Hopefully the lady beetle will also help keep aphid populations under control. By not using insecticides, the gardener will not harm any natural enemies they attract. Is this classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol? This is conservation biocontrol. By planting flowers that feed insect natural enemies and avoiding the use of insecticides, the gardener is supporting existing populations of natural enemies in and around the vegetable garden. This small packet contains 1,000 tiny predatory mites called Amblicius cucumerus. Packets are placed in trays of flower seedlings throughout a greenhouse. Over time, the mites emerge and eat thrips, as well as other pests. Every time new trays of seedlings are moved into the greenhouse, more packets of predatory mites are added. Note that while this packet is produced and sold by a certain distributor of biocontrol agents, I am not specifically endorsing this company. Many other reputable suppliers of biocontrol agents also exist. What do you think? Is this classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol? This is augmentative biocontrol. The mites do not naturally occur in the greenhouse and need to be released. As seedlings are potted up or sold and replaced with new plants, additional predatory mites will need to be applied. Our last example features the lily leaf beetle, an invasive pest of true lilies. They can quickly defoliate plants. 3 species of wasps collected from the native range of the lily leaf beetle have been released in the U.S., starting in New England. The wasps lay their eggs in the lily leaf beetle larvae. As the eggs hatch and the young wasps develop, they kill the lily leaf beetle larvae. In some parts of New England, lily leaf beetle populations are declining, and gardeners are able to grow lilies again. Is this classical, augmentative, or conservation biocontrol? This is classical biocontrol. Wasps that prey on the lily leaf beetle and co-evolved with them were released. The wasp populations are building and reducing lily leaf beetle populations. Okay, we are ready to move on to the third section of this course, where we'll talk about modes of action of biocontrol agents that are not regulated as pesticides. Recall our circle diagram from earlier. Different organisms can be biocontrol agents or natural enemies. Today we are focused just on arthropod, insect-like, and nematode biocontrol agents. Over the next few slides, I will show you a picture that represents a mode of action of biocontrol. I will also provide a list of possible modes of action. I will pause while you decide which mode of action you think is best represented by the picture, and then I'll give you the answer. First, we'll focus on insects and other arthropods as biocontrol agents. In this first picture, we see our familiar friend the lady beetle eating green aphids. On the right of the slide, you can see your options for modes of action. Herbivores are natural enemies that eat pest plants. Predators are natural enemies that either eat insect pests themselves or catch and feed the pest to their young. Parasitoids are natural enemies that live in or on pests, which serve as hosts for the natural enemy. Eventually, the parasitoid kills the host. Often parasitoids lay their eggs on a pest, and the young parasitoids start eating the pest after they hatch. Lady beetles are an example of predator natural enemies. They eat pests. Many predators will feed on a variety of different species as prey. Others feed primarily on certain pests. We are surrounded by insects and other arthropods that help keep pest populations in check. Many are predators. This slide shows pictures of just some of the many arthropod predators you might encounter if you look closely and learn to recognize them. Ladybug larvae, or immature ladybugs, look very different from the adults. You can see a picture in the left-hand picture on the top row. Usually the ladybug larvae are black and orange with long bodies and small spikes. The next picture to the right is a green lacewing. Notice its large lacy wings. Some lacewing species are predators as adults, while others are only predators as larvae. Lacewing larvae have no wings and long bodies with a scaly texture and large pincher-like jaws to eat their prey. You can see a picture of a lacewing larva in this third picture from the left. The next picture is a spider. Spiders are generalist predators that eat all kinds of insects. Many species of spiders can be found in our farms and gardens. In the picture on the far right of the top row, you can see tiger beetles. Tiger beetles are just one type of ground beetle that chases down and eats arthropods and other pests like slugs and snails at the soil surface. Moving to the bottom row on the left, we see a wasp. Many wasps are predators, feeding other insects to their young. Wasps that live alone, like this black and orange wasp, are very unlikely to sting humans. While wasps like yellow jackets or paper wasps are also predators, they can become a sting risk to humans. In the next picture, you can see a small green larva amongst black aphids on a plant stem. The larvae of some flies, including hoverflies, are great aphid predators. In the middle picture on the bottom row is a minute pirate bug. They are black and white and tiny, no more than 1/4 of an inch long. They feed on small insects like thrips and aphids as well as pollen. In the next picture, we see a pink-spotted lady beetle. It looks a bit different from the classic lady beetle that's more round and red with black spots, but it is still a good predator. In the last picture on the bottom row, we see an ambush bug. Ambush bugs have ornate brown and yellow or green bodies. They hide in flowers, waiting for other insects to pass by. More information about arthropod biocontrol agents and how to recognize them can be found through the Cornell IPM website. The resources section of this course has the link. In this next picture, I'm showing a brown insect munching on the leaf of a plant. Once again, our options for modes of action are herbivores that eat pest plants, predators that eat insect pests or feed the pest to their young, and parasitoids that live in or on pests, killing them slowly as they grow and develop. The mode of action here is herbivore, where the biocontrol agent, in this case an insect, eats a weed. Depending on the species, the insect herbivore might feed on just one or several different parts of the plant. We already talked about the beetles and weevils that were released to control purple loosestrife. Some knapweed species can also be controlled with weevils. Many herbivore biocontrol agents are released as part of a classical biocontrol strategy. In our final mode of action for arthropod biocontrol agents, we see a black and brown wasp landing on a green caterpillar. The caterpillar is happily minding its own business. After a while, there are white capsules attached to the back of the caterpillar, and the caterpillar looks like it no longer feels very good. The possible modes of action are herbivores that eat pest plants, predators that eat insect pests or feed the pest to their young, and parasitoids that live in or on pests, killing them slowly as they grow and develop. Which mode of action do you think is represented here? This picture is meant to depict a parasitoid. You may have seen big green hornworms eating tomato plants. If you were lucky enough to see one with white capsules on its back, then you saw the resting or pupal stage of a wasp that is a parasitoid of hornworms. A female wasp laid eggs on the caterpillar. They hatched, and the larvae eventually grew and developed into pupae. Soon the caterpillar will be dead. There are many species of parasitoid wasps, including the wasp pictured at the bottom right of this slide. Trisulcus japonicus lays its eggs in the eggs of brown marmorated stink bugs, killing the eggs before they hatch. Parasitoids may target different life stages of the pest, from egg to adult. Each parasitoid species usually only uses one or a few pest species as hosts. Earlier, we also talked about wasps that lay eggs on lily leaf beetle larvae. They are another example of parasitoids. There are many different species of both wasps and flies that parasitize pests. Often it is easier to spot the parasitized pest host than it is to spot the parasitoid. For example, wasp species that parasitize aphids are tiny and difficult to see. Parasitized aphids puff up and turn brown and crispy, and are easy to recognize once you know what you're looking for. After the wasp emerges, you'll see a small round hole in the aphid mummy. On the bottom right of this slide is a photograph of a parasitized hornworm with a large white wasp pupae attached to the caterpillar's back. Next to that picture, if you look closely at this Japanese beetle, you will see two tiny white dots that look like whiteout. This beetle was parasitized by a fly. Okay, we talked about insects and other arthropods as biocontrol agents. We're ready to move on to the nematodes. Some nematodes eat plants. These nematodes are pests, but biocontrol nematodes eat insects. Insect-eating nematodes have their very own mode of action. These tiny worms get into an insect through natural openings in the insect's body, like those used by the insect to breathe. The nematodes multiply within the insect, and with the help of symbiotic bacteria living inside of them, the nematodes eventually kill the insect host. Insect-eating nematodes are also called entomopathogenic nematodes. If you look at nematodes under a microscope, they look like tiny worms, wriggling if they are alive, but stiff and straight if they are dead. If you purchase nematodes, they might arrive at what looks like a slightly clumpy powder. Add water and they will start wriggling and looking for an insect to eat. But you'll need to use a hand lens to see the wriggling nematodes. Two species of entomopathogenic nematodes, Heterabditis bacteriophora and Steinernema feltiae, can be used to control white grubs in a lawn. Steinernema feltiae also kills thrips and fungus gnat larvae in potting mix. If you are applying insect and nematode natural enemies as augmentative biocontrol agents, there are a few things you should keep in mind. All insects and nematodes used as biocontrol agents need to be alive to control pests. You should apply them as soon as possible after you purchase them. Although they control pests, they are not regulated as pesticides, so they won't have pesticide labels. You may be used to reading pesticide labels to find valuable information about how to use and store the product. It is best to buy insect and nematode biocontrol agents from reputable suppliers. You should expect a reputable supplier to offer good customer service, including information about how many to purchase and how to apply them. You should also ask them about their policy if biocontrol agents arrive dead. Sometimes there are unexpected delays during shipping. The resources for this course include a link to the Association of Natural Biocontrol Producers. Their member directory can be a good place to start if you are looking for a supplier of insect and nematode biocontrol agents. Their website also has information about purchasing biocontrol agents. Following the supplier's instructions when releasing or applying your insect and nematode biocontrol agents. Local extension professionals can also answer your questions about using biocontrol. In this course, we talked about what biocontrol is, including defining some terms. We also discussed the 3 types of biocontrol: classical, conservation, and augmentative. And we talked about the modes of action for non-pesticide biocontrol agents, insects and other arthropods, as well as nematodes. A second course called Introduction to Biological Control, Part 2, Biopesticides, focuses on the microbial biocontrol agents that are regulated as pesticides. I appreciate your time and attention today. You can learn more about integrated pest management and biocontrol from the Cornell Integrated Pest Management Program. I've listed on this slide a few different social media accounts for both Cornell IPM and myself. If you are interested in biocontrol, you might also want to subscribe to my blog. The link will be in the resources for this course. If you have questions about today's presentation, you can email me at arc55@cornell.edu. Thank you.